Good to go. Are we live?
Yes, we are.
All right. Let's get it going. NBA live stream number 1, part 2, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah. Technical difficulties in the first, so.
And if you're here in the comments, let us know. Let us know if the audio is good. But we can get started. Here with me tonight is our man Philip Torr, the self-proclaimed king of Twitter, and in-house NBA expert for WalterPicks. How are we doing tonight, Phil?
Dude, I'm doing great. I'm excited for tonight's slate. It's looking like it's going to be a pretty good one, so excited to be here to talk with you about it.
Yeah, we got a lot to break down, man. There is insane amount of injuries in the NBA this season. Tonight is definitely no different. But we're coming off a 2-for-2 night. We got 4 prop picks in the WalterPicks app tonight, so I'm feeling pretty good about it, Phil.
Yeah, no, last night was huge, and it was really fun to watch those guys hit really early too. So I'm hoping that carries over to tonight as well. But yeah, like as you mentioned with the injuries, it hasn't been fun for a lot of NBA teams. So we'll see what happens tonight, and I think we're waiting for the final call on a lot of big name players. So we'll work that into our Dfs strategy as we get the news rolling in.
The most recent injury update we got, Shai Alexander is now available to play for the Thunder tonight. He's probably going to have huge usage. He's definitely in the DFS conversation now. He was out last game, so he's getting back the second game of back-to-back. Al Horford out for the Thunder as well, so a lot of injuries in that Thunder game.
Oh, yeah. No, the Thunder are a team that's like, they're super interesting because they don't really have a lot of production outside Shai Gilgeous and Al Horford. Lou Dort has been huge for them. It's a really fun player to watch, locking down like the opposing team's best player, which has allowed them
he's
to
a good
really
defender.
Yeah, it's allowed him to really like Shai Gilgeous and other guys to step up offensively, just because they don't really have to exert a lot of energy on defense.
Yeah, so the Thunder they're 7-point underdogs in this game. Grizzlies have certainly the better team. You think there's any chance the Thunder can squeak this one out? And you liking any of the DFS players in this matchup?
I'm liking so for the Grizzlies, a guy Xavier Tillman that's popped up in the WalterPicks app a lot. Really good value for a big guy coming off the bench. With Jonas Valanciunas still in or back in, sorry, it decreases his value just a little bit. But I still like a guy like Xavier Tillman. John Morant's probably going to be the stud for for the Grizzlies. But other than that, I kind of stayed away from the Grizzlies Thunder just because they're two really physical teams, very fast teams, and guys that can shut each other down on the opposite ends of the floor. So I left a lot of the Grizzlies Thunder players out of my DFS lineups for tonight.
Yeah, and I think the only one I can talk myself into in this game's got a pretty low over-under compared to the rest of the games on the slate too, is Shai Alexander, who's probably going to put up at least 15 shots, but he's got the upside of like 25 field goal attempts in this game.
Yeah, no, if this game starts flying and they start going back and forth in transition, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to have unlimited value.
So what game you want to talk about next, Phil? Which one are you most excited for tonight?
Kind of under the radar game that I'm really excited to watch. This is for all my League Pass guys out there. The Knicks and the Magic. Those are two really... The Magic aren't an exciting team. The Knicks are an exciting team, but they both have exciting players because Nikola Vucevic is probably one of my favorite players in the league this season. I think he's going to be a surefire all-star. And then Julius Randle. Vooch is the man. He's the man. And he's so fun to watch play. When he goes off, he can do it all. Rebound, defend, score, pass. The list goes on for Vucevic. And a guy that I want the Celtics to trade for as a Celtics fan selfishly.
Yeah, I mean he's really been filling up the stat sheet every single night, and it's not even just the points. He's getting rebounds as well, and this game's could end up being the closest game of the night.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think the over under was set at like 209 right now, so I'm staying away from it just because they are really good defensive teams. But yeah, the Knicks are trying to get to 500 for the first time, 30 games in the season, and I think 5 or 10 years. So they're really legit. They are building up their reputation as a legitimate team and a legitimate threat. They're going to still have some work to do to climb into the East, and it's going to be a tough playoff matchup for a lot of teams. So they're a team to watch like moving forward. And I'm seeing in the chat Emmanuel quickly. My opinion on him, I think he's probably going to take over a starting spot soon. I haven't really paid attention to the Knicks so far this season, the last few weeks. But if he hasn't been in the starting lineup yet, he should be. Definitely making a run, like a push to be included in the Rookie of the Year conversation, but I don't think he's quite there yet. And then a guy that you've identified a lot is RJ Barrett.
Yeah, RJ Barrett's he's been really streaky too, and with Derrick Rose there now, we've seen his minutes and his usage dip a little bit. Honestly, the same thing with Quickly. There's a lot of guards that they use for the Knicks, so I honestly would stay away unless you're putting them in a tournament lineup. Just general DFS strategy. This goes for the NFL too. Mm-hmm. When you're building a lineup for a tournament, you're going for maximum upside, which means you can take some risks. So you can go for the guys like RJ Barrett, who could have a 20-point night any given night, but he's been pretty streaky. Like he could easily score 8 or less any given game as well. So that's the type of guy you're looking in a tournament for. Definitely not in a 50-50 or a head-to-head matchup if you're playing on DraftKings or Fanduel, though.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. He's a guy who can unlock some lineups, but he could absolutely hinder them too.
Yeah, and I was listening to Thibodeau talk the other day, and he and I agree with what he was saying. Julius Randle and his expansion of being able to shoot the three now, it's been huge for this Knicks team. And the better he gets from deep, the more difficult it's going to get to guard the Knicks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then the only other player that I really had marked down in this game is Evan Fournier, a guy who's really showed he can show up and score. And I think he's listed as questionable right now. So obviously you got to stay away from him until more injury news comes out about him.
Yeah, last I heard about that, the coach said he did everything he could in practice. So it looks like he is going to play. Like I would mark him more as probable than questionable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the injuries like make the NBA a whole different game than the NFL. Like I really think they should just have to post the final injury list like 2 hours before the game, like it happens in the NFL, especially with how big sports betting and DFS is. It's really crazy. Yet you really can't be confident to submit your final lineups until like 30 minutes before the first game.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And it's scary too, because there's a lot of lineups that you lock in early, and then injury news comes out, like with Joel Embiid the other day, getting scratched right at game time. So it's just
we've had it several times where we had a player prop lock, and then 30 minutes before the game, now all of a sudden Tyler Hero's not playing. He wasn't mentioned once on the injury report. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, COVID definitely plays a part in all of this. I think that's probably going to be a big blame for this, because guys are and especially the condensed season. That's another aspect that really hasn't been talked about a lot, just on the shows that I watch. With these short seasons, guys playing more games back-to-backs, you're going to see a lot more injuries, and you're going to see injuries kind of pop up out of nowhere as well, just because you want to get guys rest.
Yeah, and that's just further incentive for teams to rest their best players, which we've seen a lot of this season too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a ton. But yeah, what's the next game?
I want to talk about this Pelicans Blazers game, because to me this is probably the game I'm most excited to watch. I think it could potentially be the highest scoring game of the night. It has the highest over-under on the slate tonight. And so you almost need to have at least one player. I'm recommending 2 players from this game if you're playing on DraftKings or FanDuel tonight. And the guy I'm riding with in the most out of any of my lineups tonight, it's Lonzo Ball. He's starting. He's always been a good passer, but he's starting to get more aggressive on offense too. He's averaging almost 15 points a game over his last 5. He's attempted at least 6 threes in 8 straight games. He's really starting to score the ball more. So I'm liking him a lot. I like his prop tonight, and I like him on DraftKings and FanDuel. He's not a horrible value at his price.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got to stick with your studs here, and I definitely think that's a great pick. A guy that I like is, I hate to say it, Gary Trent. Guy who screwed us a couple of weeks ago, or last week, sorry,
Yes,
with
he
the
did.
prop. Scoring 15 in the first and then is going 0 for 8 in the second half. But,
Yeah.
like, he is consistent. You know, he does score a lot. He is a very valuable shooter, and he's a really valuable piece on that Blazers team with CJ McCollum out. So I think I had Gary Trent plugged into a couple of my lineups tonight. I think he had a good value around, like, I think it was like 5,200 off the top of my head. But I think I'm going to go with Gary Trent tonight as my pick to kind of break out in that game.
Yeah, and if we're talking up that Gary Trent missed to you, jinxing that one on Twitter, Phil. I'm gonna put the blame on that for you. I think you tweeted at halftime and he didn't score a single point the rest of the game.
Yep, no, I'll take the blame on that all day, every day. That was I was really excited about it, and I thought the Walter faithful would be excited too, and then come out with a stinker of a second half.
Yeah, but I do like Gary Trent in this matchup too. I mean, Eric Bledsoe's a good defender, so I do think Gary Trent is going to have his work cut out for him. But I mean, Damian Lillard, his over under every single night is like 31 points, and he's probably going to do quite well in this one too. He costs a lot, so it's tough to get him into your lineups if you're playing head to head or cash. But I do like Damian Lillard if you're playing on DraftKings or FanDuel.
Yeah, no, he's a guy that's definitely worth the price. You can't beat it.
Yeah, and I think he's in the argument as a top 3 point guard in the league, at least in terms of scoring.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I can't think of anybody right now. Point guard wise, like Chris Paul showed up a lot this year. Another guy in that for the Suns. Sorry, I was about to say Thunder. But yeah, no. Other than that, I can't really think of a guy who matches his production. And
I'm getting a question in the TikTok live thoughts on the Knicks. We did already talk a little bit about the Knicks on this stream, but as Randall's 3 expands, I do think the Knicks are going to get harder and harder to defend. They're 4-point favorites tonight against an injured Magic team, and I think they're going to handle that one.
Yeah.
But I want to talk a little bit, Phil, about the Celtics game because I'm a Celtics fan. I'm very excited for this game, and I honestly think that they should be favored by more than 2 points here. They're only 2-point favorites right now. I think that moved a little bit since the Kemba Walker rule out, but I like the Celtics at -2. They lost back-to-back games to like 2 of the worst teams in the NBA, but I still think they're a lot better than this Hawks team.
Yeah, so the Hawks are a team they've struggled a lot the past 2 weeks or so. The 4 straight losers of 4 straight, and I think they lost 7 of the last 8 games. And a lot of that's because of DeAndre Hunter being out, their second leading scorer, a guy that they've relied on to pick up the slack for Trae Young when he's hurting. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the Celtics should handle this team, and the 2-point favorite, it confuses me a little bit. It makes me double think or question my thoughts a little bit. But, yeah, Jason Tatum's been struggling, which stinks because he's a guy that was really trying to take that MVP-type leap this year. But I think I'm going to ride with you, Sam. I think I'm going to ride with the Celtics -2.
Yeah, and on the DraftKings and FanDuel side in this game, you got to be really careful with the non-stud players on the Celtics in the second half of a back-to-back like they are in tonight. Brad Stevens gets really deep into the bench in the second half of back-to-back games. Like the rotation outside of the studs is always absolutely wild. Like I won't be surprised if Grant Williams is very much in the mix today. Peyton Pritchard should get the start, but he's very reliant kind of on the 3, so he's pretty much a boomer bust player. Like I do think though, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they're both going for at least 25 points tonight. Like you have to have at least one of them in your head-to-head lineup, you could arguably have both. They're 2 of the safest players on the slate. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm gonna go with Jaylen Brown just because he has shown a little bit more consistency, improving his shooting on his threes. But you mentioned a guy who I absolutely love tonight. I think he was 3,300 or 3,800. Peyton Pritchard. Especially with Kemba Walker being out, I had Peyton Pritchard in my lineups before I got that news. Is a guy who brings so much electricity, so much versatility to their backcourt. And I think I'm going to plug him in to try to get studs like Damian Lillard and Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown in there. It saves you a lot of money, and I think it's definitely a worthwhile value play.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that you're going to have to find like one or two value plays kind of consistently on the NBA slate, and Pritchard's probably going to be a pretty popular one tonight. And I do think that the Celtics -2. I like Jaylen Brown. I like Jason Tatum a lot tonight. Those are probably my three of my favorite bets tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. A guy who I do like, who came out with a really, really bad game last time out, Kevin Huerter, who's kind of picked up some of the slack for DeAndre Hunter. I plugged him into a few lineups. I still think he's a little bit overvalued. I think he's sitting around like 5,600, 5,700 right now.
Yeah.
But he's got to step up and be kind of like the number 2, number 3 option without DeAndre Hunter. You got John Collins, you got Clint Capella, but other than that, there's really no one on there who can really shoot the ball at a consistent clip. So don't rule out Kevin Huerter. I think his over-under line too for our prop bet guys is like 11.5. So if the Celtics and the Hawks get into a shootout, Kevin Huerter can definitely be a value player.
Yeah, and we haven't even mentioned Trae Young, who's basically the entire Hawks offense. And I guess Kemba Walker being out, probably I don't see Kemba as a good defender. I don't think Pritchard's a great defender either. But, I mean, Trae Young's probably going to put up around 30 points tonight like he does consistently. This Hawks team is honestly tough to watch because it's Trae Young just running around trying to get an inch of space. It reminds me of a little bit of the early Steph Curry days where he's just running around 3 picks, and the whole defense knows he's going to shoot the ball.
Yeah.
And there's really no range for Trae Young either. He'll pull up from like 5 feet behind the 3-point line.
Yeah, none at all. In the weird thing that I've noticed about Trae Young, just kind of keeping track, I've watched him on League Pass a few times, but he really kind of sneaky scores a lot of points. Like, he doesn't go out and absolutely burst for 3 threes in a row or 4 threes in a row. He kind of chips his way up there. So don't be afraid if Trae Young has like 3 or 4 points at the end of the first quarter. He'll still end up with 25 somehow. It's happened so much the past few weeks.
Yeah, great. And so let's move to a different game. Let's talk a little bit about the Pacers versus the Timberwolves. Karl Anthony Towns is back. I think he's one of the safer players on the slate. He's one of the highest probabilities of getting a double-double every single night. I do think he's getting at least 20 points, at least 10 rebounds in this game. But the Timberwolves are 5-point underdogs against a Pacers team that's really done better than what people expected. Who do you like in this game, Phil?
Yeah, so the Pacers, I kind of adopted them as my second team in the East, so I follow them pretty closely, especially going to college in Indianapolis. I've been around them. But I like the Pacers -5 tonight. I think it's a lot of points, especially going up against a team who has their deadly duo back. But I think Miles Turner and Domas Sabonis can really take care of business down low and keep Karl Anthony Towns at will. I think he'll still get his. But Pacers have been struggling. Malcolm Brogdon has been kind of slow. After trading away Victor Oladipo and losing Karis LeVert for potentially the season, Jeremy Lamb's had to step up. Doug McDermott's had to step up. And those are 2 really good value guys. I think Doug McDermott is kind of a good DFS hack. I had him in my lineup last week where you can play him at the power forward for like 4,200, 4,800 or something. And if he goes off and hits 4 or 5 threes, then you get your production back. So Doug McDermott's definitely one of my favorite DFS hacks this week. Jeremy Lamb's a good value play. I'd stay away from Malcolm Brogdon, and I'd probably, as much as I hate to say it, I'd stay away from Domas Sabonis.
Yeah, and I like Doug McDermott as a value tonight too. I think that his upside in terms of points at his cost is he's one of the best values of the night in my opinion. And I've also just always been a fan of Doug McDermott and just his shooting ability.
Yeah, ever since the college days, Creighton Blue Jays.
Yeah, Dougie McBuckets.
Oh yeah, yep. But yeah, on the Wolves side, there's really no one I'm marking. I think like D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns. Is D'Angelo Russell playing tonight?
Let's check.
Yeah, I know he had been banged up, so I don't know if he got the red light or not. But
no, it's looking like they haven't filled out their injury report yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, he's another guy too. Malcolm Brogdon's a really good on-ball defender, and D'Angelo Russell can create his own shot. But
It's looking like he's out. I think Ricky Rubio is starting.
Okay. Ricky Rubio would be a pretty good play. He's probably, like 55, 5,600, something like that?
Yeah, he's always a lock for, between 7 and 10 assists. Ricky Rubio is one of the best passers in the game. He just doesn't score the ball enough to really have that upside like some of the better shooters.
Yeah, so with D'Lo being out, Karl-Anthony Towns becomes like a real strong play. Especially with Ricky Rubio tossing dimes to him.
Yeah, I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns is one of the safest players on the slate today. Like I said at the start, I don't think he's scoring less than 20 points, and I see him getting at least 10 rebounds, and I think that's right around where his over-unders are for the night too. So if he can get some steals, blocks, and assists in there, like I won't be surprised if Karl-Anthony Towns finishes as a top 10 player tonight. And we got someone asking in the TikTok chat. I know that the TikTok chat cannot hear you, Phil, so they're only hearing me, and then they're watching me listen occasionally. So we're working on getting your sound on the TikTok stream too. But we do have a free player prop pick tonight, which I want to let everyone know about. If you go into the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store, we've been posting nightly player prop picks for the NBA, over 62% accuracy so far this season. And we've already identified more picks in the NBA than we did the entire NFL season. There's a lot of NBA games, man. And we got one free pick tonight in the WalterPicks app. Even if you aren't subscribed, you will see that pick if you go into the NBA player props tool.
Yeah, don't want to miss out on this slate. This is a really, really strong 4 picks.
Yeah, so we got 4 player props tonight. And honestly, the player props are, like, after I see what Walter has identified for the night, and how this works, by the way, is Walter identifies any player he's over 65% confident will hit. And then there's a lock on that player if Walter's over 75% confident that player will hit. And we got 2 locks in the app tonight. And those 2 players are also 2 players I really like on DraftKings and Fanduel tonight, just because I think that they're a little bit underpriced.
Yeah. No, the two locks are definitely 2 that I saw coming just based off of past performances this week. But yeah, it's the Walter algorithm has definitely helped kind of sort through I guess the best way I look at it is when I used to bet, like scrolling through all the player props was so time consuming and annoying, and it took a really long time to find the best one. But Walter cuts through that kind of grass and those weeds, and he also just finds winners. Like, I think that's the best way to put it. So yeah, it's definitely something that you want to be a part of if you're not already.
Yeah, and one of my motives behind building the WalterPicks app was just cutting down the amount of time. Not even just like just for myself personally. Like when I was betting, I was spending 2, 3, maybe 4 hours of like researching and like reading different articles and kind of doing like my own research. And I was just saying to myself, there has to be a more efficient way to do this, where I'm not spending so much of my free time researching what to bet on. And that's kind of the motive behind the WalterPicks app. You open the app, you refresh the prop screen, and you got 4 great bets for the night right there. It takes you 15 seconds to place the bet. So that is one of the motivations behind the app.
Yep, absolutely. And then another feature of the app that's also cut down a lot of time is the DFS optimizer, which we've been talking about tonight. But it's such a great tool. It really is.
Yeah, and really, this is only the beginning of the DFS optimizer. There's so much more too that we're going to add, and we got a new feature actually coming out next week where you'll be able to add all the players with a single button. A lot of people have been requesting that, but yeah, it's the way that the optimizer works is essentially you go through each position, you pick the pool of players you're most confident in for the night, and you can compare the players based on all of Walter's projections of every single stat. Once you've chosen your pool of players, you hit optimize, and it'll spit out the 5 best lineups with all of those players, and you can choose as many players as you want. So it really makes it like a 5-minute process as opposed to like a 5-hour process if you're really going to get into the weeds. Someone in the TikTok comment saying, "You helped me win my fantasy football championship." Hell yeah, man! And we are going to help you go back to back next season. We're going to be posting our fantasy football rankings in the WalterPicks app like way too soon, like probably in the next month or so. Probably around the time of the NFL draft, we're going to have like all of our next NFL season projections like already in the app.
Oh, we'd love to hear that. Yeah. So do you want to get into DFS lineups?
Yeah, let's talk through some of them.
All right.
You can share yours first.
Okay. I got yours up there right now. So this is my Fanduel one. And like I kind of mentioned a lot of the guys that I like. Someone in the YouTube comments shouted out Derrick Rose, who's been a great pickup for the Knicks. I like his value at 4,800 tonight. Damian Lillard's in there, who I think you can't really over project him. I think his total is limitless every single night. So I like him. Hold on, I'm trying to get it up on my phone. But yeah, other than that, I kind of worked in a lot of the guys that Walter's liked the past few weeks, like Andrew Wiggins, who's won us money countless times through prop picks. And then
Andrew Wiggins, I feel like people have this anger about Andrew Wiggins because he was supposed to be better than he is. Like people were claiming him as the next LeBron James when Andrew Wiggins was first drafted, but he's still good. Like Andrew Wiggins is still a good NBA player, and he's scoring like 15 points a night. He's actually one of the most consistent scorers in the league. Like he has, I don't think a single game this season under 10 points. So Andrew Wiggins to me gets more hate than he deserves.
Oh, absolutely. He's been, like you said, he's been one of the most consistent guys, dropping like 15, 20 a night for the Warriors. And on a team without Klay Thompson, he's going to be your next best scorer. He's going to carry you through a lot of these wins by chipping in those 15 to 20. So I think his value goes a little bit understated as well. And then I kind of stuck with my guns. I went Kawhi Leonard, who's, if we're talking about consistency, he's the king of consistency. I don't think his price tag at 9,500 is enough, really. And then R.J. Barrett, a guy we talked about, Carmelo Anthony, Serge Ibaka, and Vucevic. Those are just my guys. I've kind of watched them throughout the season. I've liked them a lot, and I think Carmelo's value has kind of been boosted because of C.J. McCollum, like Gary Trent. So I like those guys a lot. Serge Ibaka is definitely my value play of the night for the Clippers.
I like it. Yeah, I'm a little anxious about playing Carmelo Anthony in DFS tonight. Someone just asked in the TikTok comments, and I think this is a good question. Said never played DFS, which is short for DraftKings and Fanduel. But I'm a premium member for WalterPicks. First of all, thanks, Cobb, for being a premium member. Really do appreciate it. How difficult is it to pick up, and how do I start? This is a good question, and I want to address it before I go through my lineup for tonight. But I think the best way to start first, go on over to YouTube, join the YouTube stream so you can see Phil and I kind of talking through the slate tonight. And then I recommend, like, the nice thing about DraftKings and FanDuel is you can get started for $1. Like, you don't need to put that much money at risk as you're first getting started. I recommend, if you're first getting started into DraftKings or FanDuel for the NBA, starting with the 50-50s or the head-to-head matchups and looking for the ones where it's just single entry. So you're not going up against people that are submitting 100 lineups while you're only inputting one. So the single entry 50-50s is probably the best place for you to start at the low entry fees. And I'm going to talk through my lineup right now, so you can copy some or most of my lineup if you want to do that if you're starting out. And so I want to start. We're talking about FanDuel right now. I want to start with my FanDuel lineup. Two of my favorite guards of the night: Ben Simmons and Lonzo Ball. Ben Simmons coming off a career high shooting attempts and points. Lonzo Ball, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, he's been much more aggressive offensively. He's got at least six 3-point attempts in 8 straight games. So he's not only, we know he's a good passer. He's been a good passer since he entered the league, but he's shooting the ball much more now too. Then I'm going with Tyler Hero and Seth Curry at shooting guard. I like both their upside. I really like Seth Curry tonight up against a team allowing the third most points per game to shooting guards this season. At small forward, I'm rocking with Jaylen Brown. I think you have to have either Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, if not both, in your lineups tonight. Again, they're without Kemba Walker. I think both of them are scoring at least 25. And if the game is close, which it's only a 2-point spread, I think they're going to be 2 of the top 10 players on the slate tonight. Michael Porter Jr. is a guy that kept popping into my lineups as I was optimizing on the WalterPicks app, and he had probably his worst game of his career in his last game. I think he had 0 points. I think he was like 0 for 9 or something like that.
It was tough. It was tough to watch.
Yes, but I do think he's going to bounce back. He's a risk, though. He's definitely a risk, and he's probably not the guy you want in a head-to-head or 50-50 lineup, but I don't think no guy's going to have his worst game of his career and following up with another worst game of his career. And then I'm going with John Collins at power forward. The Celtics have struggled on interior defense. They've actually been okay against power forwards, but I like John Collins' value tonight. And then I went with Darius Bazley with Al Horford out. I think he's a pretty good value. And then my favorite center of the night as a value play, Enes Kanter for the Blazers. I think that he's going to do very well against the defense, allowing top 5 points per game to centers this season.
Yeah. No, Kanter's been a really, really valuable player for them since they lost Nurk. And he's also a guy who does chip in and he can score. I watched him a lot when he played for the Celtics, and he became one of my favorite players because he has that like really nice post move package where he can just kind of toss it up and it'll go in. But yeah, no, I love that lineup that you had. I think the Ben Simmons Lonzo Ball combination at the top is a really strong way to start out. You know you're going to get production from those guys. If Joel Embiid is out, then that almost doubles for Ben Simmons. And then Seth Curry, can't say enough good things about the guy. He's completely turned around his career and given the Sixers team a shooter that they desperately needed. So I love that lineup tonight. I'm going to play that in some 50-50s, and I threw it in a tournament or two just to kind of ride your DFS expertise.
Nice, yeah. So let's pivot to DraftKings, and there are a few scoring differences between DraftKings and FanDuel that I think are worth knowing about. I think FanDuel, or I forget which is. I think FanDuel is the one that gives you a bonus for double doubles and triple doubles, and a little bit more for steals too. So a little bit. Any other options with Ben Simmons questionable? Someone says. I did not see the report that Ben Simmons was questionable. This must have been recent. Let's check that out.
Yeah, it's probably very recent.
Gotta read this report.
I checked those like 20 minutes before we started, and he was still going.
Ben Simmons is questionable with an illness Wednesday versus Houston. Hopefully, Coach Doc Rivers has been informed after being unaware of Joel Embiid's back issue on Monday. With Shake Milton already ruled out, Tyrese Maxey would be catapulted into the streaming radar if Simmons can't go, and Seth Curry would have more upside as well. Oh, man, here we go again. We're about an hour. We're like an hour away from tip-off. Ben Simmons, one of my favorite plays of the night, all of a sudden has an illness out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's tough.
Someone asked, is Jokic playing? Yeah, I believe Jokic is playing.
Yeah, I saw he was questionable, but with the Nuggets, I think half their roster's out, so if Jokic doesn't play, they might as well just forfeit the game.
Oh God, yeah, they will not even put up 100 points if Jokic doesn't play.
Yeah, but
he had almost half their points last night.
Yeah,
right. He was like 42 points out of almost 100 points.
Yeah. I think they scored like 93 or 94. So yeah, he did have half their points. That's crazy. Your DK lineup is up right now. If you want to talk through it.
Yeah, let me talk through the DK lineup, and again, we just got some new injury news. I'm sure we're going to get more too before the stream is over, because that's just how the NBA season is this season. It's honestly absolutely insane. But I don't think Ben Simmons is in this one, so I think I'm in the clear. A few people in the TikTok comments are saying Simmons is confirmed out, so we're gonna have to check on that, Phil. You can check on that while I'm walking through this lineup. For this lineup. Like I was saying, I think you need either Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum in your lineup, if not both tonight. This lineup, again, I'm rocking with Jaylen Brown. I really think he's probably one of the safest players in the slate, if not the safest. At the second point guard slot, I'm going with Michael Carter-Williams, who has seen increased usage. He's on a team with a ton of injuries, and I think he's going to benefit from those. And then Danuel House is also a guy, depending on how the injury report goes for his team, could definitely see an increased workload tonight. So I like him as well at small forward. I already talked a little bit about why I'm in on Michael Porter Jr. tonight. I also think you got to consider a little bit about ownership percentages on DraftKings. And coming off the worst game of his career, I can't see many people having him in his lineup. So a 10-point night's probably going to return value for me with Michael Porter. Rudy Gobert, one of the most consistent players on DraftKings with how he just stuffs the stat sheet. The almost definite defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert. So I'm rocking with him at center. I have Lonzo Ball in this lineup again. Lonzo Ball's, I guess, with Ben Simmons looking like he's out. Lonzo Ball's probably one of my favorite players. Him, Jaylen Brown, two of my favorite players on the slate tonight. Denzel Valentine, a guy that consistently pops up as a value for me in the WalterPicks app. Yeah. He's nothing crazy, but he has a chance at 10 plus points, 5 plus rebounds, and a few assists So he's also going to get it. He's also going to get it done at 4,900 for me. And then Mason Plumlee has been pretty consistent this season, and I like his opportunity tonight. So I went with him at the util. And so that's the lineup. Projected for 309 points, and 309 points, that's going to be cashing in a 50-50. So I do like it.
Yeah. No, you hit on all the points that I was going to say you hit on. Denzel Valentine, sneaky value guy. Consistent. Can go out and score, and he can do a lot more than you expect he would. For a Bulls team who's been very underwhelming, but I think he's a great play tonight. Rudy Gobert is also a guy that I had marked down in a few of my lineups. And Michael Porter Jr., we've been talking about him a lot. Michael Porter Jr., again, coming off a career worst, I think 0 for 8 performance, but with his versatility on where you can put him in a DK lineup, and with that number, I think he's at 6,200. With all the Nuggets injuries, keep in mind that Monte Morris is out, Paul Millsap is out, PJ Dozier is out, Gary Harris is out. The list goes on. So I think like Facundo Campazzo is their third or fourth option. So Michael Porter Jr. is going to be a play. I think he's going to be very worth the value.
I'm just getting this from Twitter right now. Phil, it is confirmed.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons is out tonight. So another prop pick identified by Walter. Another lock about an hour before the game, after coming off his best scoring game of his career. Mm-hmm. Ben Simmons is out tonight with illness. All of a sudden, he's coming down with an illness, so he is out. So you gotta hopefully. And from what I've heard from the WalterPicks subscribers, actually, is that almost all sports books, if you bet on someone that doesn't play, the bet is void. So you get your money back. So hopefully that's the case for everyone out there that bet on Ben Simmons like I did tonight. So Ben Simmons is out. That honestly, I think, bumps up Seth Curry to probably my favorite value of the night. He's up against a team that's allowing the top 3 points per game to shooting guards. He's really seen increased minutes, and I think he's going to be one of the top scoring options for the 76ers tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have anybody else. If Joel Embiid doesn't play, Tobias Harris, Seth Curry, and I don't know who else leads the charge for him. Dwight Howard's value is definitely going to be boosted tonight. I think that's a really good value play. I think I had him in one of my lineups. So, yeah, that changes up a lot, and it just goes to show the inconsistency and the craziness of the NBA, which never fails. Never fails.
Yeah, it's been truly an unparalleled NBA season in terms of the players being ruled out minutes before the game. But yeah, so Ben Simmons is out. Seth Curry's looking like probably my favorite value play of the night now. I'm going to have to tinker with a lot of my lineups to get him in, Simmons out, and I'll probably upgrade a few spots. And I'm going to be looking to upgrade to Jason Tatum if I can in these lineups where I had Jaylen Brown. I'm pretty comfortable playing both. And honestly, especially in a 50-50, like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I would be pretty surprised if they don't combine for 50 points tonight.
Yeah. No, in a 50-50, if they both go off, they both combine for 50 points, then I feel like you're taking that matchup with ease, depending on your other plays. But they're going to be – that's a pretty formidable charge at the top. I definitely agree with you.
So if you're using the WalterPicks app to optimize your lineups, I really recommend testing out the lock feature. This is probably my favorite feature in the entire tool, where if there's a player you want in your lineup, you can hit that little lock button, and you will lock them into your lineup. And I'm hitting the lock button on Lonzo Ball. I'm hitting the lock button on Jaylen Brown and on Jason Tatum tonight. And I like Cantor as locked in at center too. And then choose the pool of players you like outside of that, and you're going to get some absolutely dominant lineups.
Yep. Yeah. The only other guy that I want to talk about, I think I love his matchup tonight, is John Collins. For the Hawks, a guy that can go in there, he can score, he can rebound, he can do a lot for a Celtics team for a Hawks team that dominates in the post, rebounds a lot, and then adversely the Celtics struggle with interior defense. So it's going to be tough, but I like John Collins a lot.
Yeah, John Collins is a good one, and I think there's a few games that we haven't touched on yet, Phil, that I want to talk about. One of which is probably the worst game in my opinion, of the night. The Detroit Pistons versus the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are 3-point favorites in this game, a pretty modest over-under of 219. I do think that the Pistons have a very real shot in this one, but these are two teams to me that just aren't very exciting. Is there anyone on DraftKings or Fanduel that you like from this game?
Not really. I think Denzel Valentine, a guy that you identified, I think he's really the only one. For the Pistons, I don't know what they're doing, where their franchise is moving with like with the Blake Griffin news kind of happening. I have no idea what's going on with them, so that's a team I'm staying away from. Jeremy Grant's a guy that I love. I have him on my fantasy team. I've been betting on like his props kind of sparingly throughout the season, but he's never a guy that you really want to put into a DFS lineup. I think he might be out tonight too because I didn't see him anywhere, and also just the inconsistency with the Pistons team. It's tough. Miles Plumlee or Mason Plumlee, whichever Plumlee it is, I think he's a really good play. He can do a lot for the Pistons, and he's shown he can be versatile and like dish too. So he can rack up assists, rebounds, points. But other than that, those are the two teams that you want to stay away from, just because absolutely no one knows what's going on in their front offices, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
With everything going on, you just kind of want to stay away from the noise.
Yeah, I think probably another guy that I like that we didn't mention is Delon Wright. The Bulls are getting torched in the pick and roll pretty consistently, and I think Delon Wright's in a pretty good spot tonight too. I like Jeremy Grant as well. They play similar roles on the team, but I do like Delon Wright as a pretty good value too.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And then we haven't talked at all, I don't think, about the Nuggets-Washington game. Bradley Beal is priced insanely high every single night. It's around 9,800 on DraftKings. He should have pretty low ownership, though, and he's always a guy that I'm interested in. I mean, like, what he's doing scoring the ball, he's at the end of this season, he's going to be on lists with Kobe Bryant, with Magic Johnson, with Wilt Chamberlain. Like, the way that he's scoring the ball is absolutely insane. Just on a team with no other offensive weapons. Bradley Beal's over-under each night is around 35. That's how insane he has been scoring the ball this season.
Yeah, and with Russell Westbrook, this is kind of something that's been a huge debate throughout this NBA season is, has Russell Westbrook does he help or hurt the Wizards? And in Bradley Beal's case, it helps him because Westbrook's known to get assists. Like, he can pass the ball, and Bradley Beal is probably the only consistent scoring option on that team. But just matchup-wise, the Wizards actually match up pretty well with the Nuggets. Mo Wagner, who's been a huge surprise for the Wizards, stepping up and playing really good defense, giving them like kind of a burst on both ends of the floor. If he can handle Jokic, the Wizards could stay in this game. Like, I don't think there's a blowout watch that could ruin player props. I think the Wizards could stay in this game if Bradley Beal is scoring, Russell Westbrook's doing his thing, and Mo Wagner shuts Jokic down. The Nuggets just have so many injuries right now, man. It's tough. It's tough to see and tough to watch because they really hurt the production from Gary Harris, PJ Dozier, Paul Millsap, Monte Morris, who's one of the best backup point guards in the league. It's just tough. It's tough to watch the Nuggets play right now. Last night watching them play the Celtics it hurt. It hurt.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's definitely tough to watch them right now. And Jokic is probable with a thumb injury. Monte Morris questionable. Gary Harris questionable. Will Barton out. Paul Millsap out. Ish Smith out. I mean, they've really been plagued by injuries. And this game is projected to be close. I mean, they're still 3.5-point favorites, which tells you everything you need to know about the Washington Wizards this season. That they're underdogs in this game when they're basically playing half of the Nuggets team. But this game does have the highest over-under of the night. And so there's going to be players from this game that you're going to want in your DraftKings and Fanduel lineups. And Bradley Beal is definitely one of those guys if you can pay up for him. But I do like – I'm taking a risk here, but I do like Michael Porter Jr. to have a bounce-back game after literally his worst game of his career. I don't see him playing that poorly in back-to-back games.
Not at all. Yeah, I think Michael Porter Jr. couldn't be more undervalued tonight. His price is still a little bit high, but for what he can give you, it's right there. He's versatile. Definitely plug him in. I think he's one of the best plays of the night.
Yeah, and JaMychal Green's a guy that I'm staying away from in this game. His usage really cratered, even though last game, even though Michael Porter Jr. did have his worst game of his career. So I both think both JaMychal Green and Michael Porter probably better options in tournaments than head-to-head. But I'm leaning towards Michael Porter over JaMychal Green tonight.
Yeah, JaMychal Green's just too inconsistent, and you don't know how much he's going to play, what his production is going to be like. I guess with the injuries, he's probably going to play a little bit more, but I still think stay away from him and plug in Michael Porter.
Yeah, and another game we haven't talked about, Phil, Miami Heat versus the Golden State Warriors. And I was a little surprised when I saw this spread. The Warriors are actually favored in this game by a point.
Yep.
What do you think about this one? When I think of these two teams, I think the Miami Heat are a lot better than the Warriors.
Yeah, so I just switched screens on you because the Heat are actually my play of the night. I like them a lot. I think 1.5 is way too few against the Warriors. I think that might even be 1 or 2 on some other books, but Miami Heat got to win this game. They got to get back on track. They've had way too many injuries, and they're battling a lot of adversity coming off of their performance in the bubble. But Jimmy Butler's shown his consistency. He's back. He's scoring. He's doing his thing. Tyler Hero.
He's been very, very, very consistent.
Yeah. Oh, my God. And him and Tyler Hero, whenever Dragic is out, I don't know why, but I like the Heat a little bit more. Dragic is a really good player, don't get me wrong, but I love the combination of Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and Jimmy Butler. I don't know why, but watching them in the playoffs, they each bring so much to the floor, and they each bring like kind of a different tool. So I think they work Steph Curry. I think they work inside. Bam Adebayo is going to get his. It wasn't a WalterPicks approved prop, but Bam Adebayo over 19.5 is one of my favorite plays of the night, just from looking on the books. James Wiseman's out still. Golden State Warriors have absolutely no inside presence. So I think Bam goes for at least 20, and I think the Heat cover that 1.5 point spread.
Yeah, I like this one, Phil. I think you've convinced me. I might toss a little on this game, but the Heat to me have just the better starting 5, and I don't know like if the benches are that different. But Steph Curry's the best player in the game, but I would argue that the Heat probably have the next 2 or 3 best players in the game. I mean, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are good. Bam Adebayo, and I don't say this lightly, he reminds me of a worse but young version of Kevin Garnett. Like, he can shoot the mid-range. He's huge, and I think he's pretty good on the defensive side of the ball too. Yeah. I do like them a lot in this game.
Yeah, no, the Kevin Garnett comparisons, it kind of rings some bells because he's got attitude. You know, he goes out there and he plays ball. You know, he might not talk as much crap as KG did, but he goes out and he plays hard and he works hard every single night. If you watch the games, you can see Bam just working. He earns every single bit of that contract that they gave him, but Bam easily the best player of the night. And then on the screen, Sam, is the Ben Simmons play, which the chat's going nuts about. It's ruled out with an illness right before tip-off, so that stinks.
This is how I will remember this NBA season, is the amount of times I tossed a lot on players, and then 30 minutes to an hour before the game, just bet void, the guy's not even playing. No one even knew there was a possible issue with Ben Simmons tonight. Hour before tip-off, he's very sick. He's not playing. Apparently, it's the flu, though, so good news that it's not COVID. But, yeah, so Ben Simmons coming off the best offensive game of his career, no longer playing. So we can all assume this one definitely would have cashed, but it will go down as void in history books.
Yeah, I'm counting it as a mental winner. It's a winner in my book.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah. But then your play was Celtics minus 2.5, a game that we've already talked about. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the Sixers. I know we've talked a little bit about them, but we haven't really talked about the Rockets that much. Is there any guys that you kind of have your eye on working in DFS lineups?
Yeah, so, I mean, the Houston Rockets also dealing with injuries. Oladipo is going to be out in this game. Eric Gordon going to be out. 2 of their best offensive players. PJ Tucker, one of their best defenders, going to be out in this game. And then on the Sixers side, we got Joel Embiid out. Ben Simmons out, Shake Milton out. I mean, this game is essentially a game of backups. But John Wall is coming off a good game against his former team. I do like him in this game, and probably one of my favorite values of the night that was in my Fanduel lineup is Danuel House. I think he's going to play 30-plus minutes in this game, and so I like Danuel House as a great value play in DraftKings and Fanduel. I have probably my favorite value play of the night, Seth Curry with no Ben Simmons, up against the Rockets, who are allowing top 3 points per game to shooting guards. They have not guarded shooting guards at all this season. It's been pretty incredible. Like every shooting guard they play ends up scoring at least 10 points. So I do like Seth Curry a lot tonight too.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think Seth Curry starts, or he might be starting, but the Vegas line on him is probably going to go through the roof now that Simmons and Embiid are out. You had to think. So I'm interested to see what they mark his line at, because his value just became so much higher. But yeah, John Wall I think he might be one of my new favorite plays of the night now with all those injuries out. I knew Oladipo and Gordon were questionable, but now that they're confirmed out, I think John Wall becomes a really good play. He had a really good game last time out, so maybe that makes me, the way my mind works, Sam, and I don't know if this is good or bad, is like when a guy has a good game, I'm immediately uninterested in him. Like, I'm a trends person, you know? I like you're a stats guy. I look at trends, and like if a guy scores 43 one night, he's probably going for like 25, 21 the next. Like, I don't know why my mind works that way, but whenever somebody has a good game, I automatically think they're going to have like an average or bad game. So I might pump brakes on John Wall just a little bit, but I think you can't overstate his value. He's the only guy that can score really at a consistent clip for the Rockets. So John Wall definitely is going to be plugged into a lot of my lineups.
Yeah, and one of the best parts of Ben Simmons' game is his defense, and so without him too, John Wall definitely is going to see an uptick in points.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, yep, absolutely. But yeah, I really had no other notes in that game. The Rockets, I think
there's still one game we have not talked about yet, Phil, and it's honestly probably the best game of the night.
Yeah, best for last.
And that's the Utah Jazz versus the LA Clippers. And I just made a video today, Phil, on the 5 teams that I think, the only 5 teams really that I believe have a chance to win the NBA Finals. This is 2 of them. This is 2 of the 5. Mm-hmm. It's the Utah Jazz and the LA Clippers. The Jazz are 18-1-1 against the spread in their last 20 games, a run we haven't seen since the 1970s. Like, against the spread, not even just straight up. I think they've only been underdogs 3 times this season. They're favored by 4.5 in this game versus the Clippers. The odds makers are really trying to end this streak for the Utah Jazz. Like, realistically, this game should probably be an even spread, but nobody's going to bet against the Jazz on this streak.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing, if the Jazz are going in healthy, which I think they are, Mike Conley's a game-time decision right now. But Paul George is out. Nick Batum is out. Kawhi Leonard is a game-time decision. I didn't see anything that said he was trending towards out. I think he's trended towards he's going to play, which I hope he does, because he's been an anchor in a lot of my DFS lineups. But if Kawhi Leonard plays, I think they make it a little bit of a game. But if he's out, Jazz are going to win by 15, 20 points. That's just the way they've been.
I think this game's really just dominated by the questionable tags, just like so many of these games. Kawhi Leonard and Mike Conley, both questionable. I think Conley's going to play. I think Kawhi's going to play too, but neither of those things are confirmed. Mm-hmm. But with Conley and Kawhi, they've missed a run of games. Like, the prices on both these teams are kind of elevated. So I don't love any of these guys on DraftKings or Fanduel, and I just hate playing guys in the late. This is the latest game of the night that could have huge swings in who you want to play depending on this late injury news. So we're going to get this injury news during the other games.
Yeah. No, and at that point it's too late. So it's just tough. You know, it's so tough. I want to pull Kawhi Leonard, but he's such a good play against the Jazz team. I mean, he's going to be going up against Bojan Bogdanovic, who is a decent defender, but who are you picking in that matchup? You know, the Claw and Bojan. I think it's easy. Kawhi is going to take him to the house. But, yeah, it makes you double check and it makes you think. But we've identified – we gave the people a few studs that are going to go out and they're going to score. So that's what I'm kind of hanging my hat on tonight.
Yeah, and Kawhi Leonard, honestly, even though he's questionable, I do think he's an interesting tournament target. He's probably going to be under 10% owned on DraftKings and FanDuel tonight because of the injury tag and because of how good the Jazz defense is. So I honestly don't hate him in a tournament. We know what Kawhi can do, and there's nights where Kawhi is just completely matchup proof. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he can definitely unlock a lineup tonight. And especially with Paul George out, he can score. You know, he's going to score. And Serge Ibaka, another guy, he's going to against Gobert, which is going to stink, but he's a guy that's got to score too for the Clippers to stay in this game.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've gone through every single game at this point. We talked about the Knicks in the Magic. I think we both think that game can be very close. I think the Knicks are getting harder and harder to guard as Randall gets better and better from three. But to me, the Magic definitely have a chance in that one. That's supposed to be the lowest scoring game of the night, though. So I would be careful picking players from that game. Yep. The 76ers versus the Rockets. The Sixers are still 8.5-point favorites despite Ben Simmons being out, along with a lot of their other starters. Joel Embiid, I think, is probable at this point. But the Rockets also have just a slew of injuries. This is a lot of these games, just the battle of the backups. We also talked about the Hawks and the Celtics. I love the Celtics -2. I think I'm tossing on the Celtics -2 and the Heat +1 tonight. That's probably one of my favorite parlays of the night too. I don't usually recommend parlays, but I don't see the Celtics or the Heat losing tonight, and those spreads are really close.
Oh wow, the Heat line moved a lot. When I looked at it, they were -1. Oh, I guess they are -1. Okay, never mind. But
I'm seeing them at +1. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's moving. I think right now it's at a pick'em. All right, yeah, you're right. Warriors -1, but yeah, when I got them earlier, it was like Heat -2, 2.5. So I think the Heat bring it to the Warriors. I know the Warriors are playing in their home gym, but I like the Heat a lot. I think it's undervalued. It's kind of been a buzzword tonight, but I like the Heat a lot.
I think we've talked ourselves into it with the Miami Heat +1 in this matchup. I also like the game. I think like one of my two underrated teams to watch. Keep it with the theme of underrated is the Blazers and the Pelicans, and I think the Pelicans are going to win this one. But I just love watching Damian Lillard, and Lonzo Ball's one of my favorite plays of the night. So I'm excited to watch that one. And Pelicans -4, that has, I think, the second highest or first highest over-under of the night. So that's going to be a fun one to watch too.
Yeah, if the Pelicans keep scoring the way they've been scoring, like what they put up last night, like 140? Like they've been scoring
some of these scores are insane.
Yeah, they've been putting up points like the Kings. So if the Pelicans keep scoring it the way they're scoring it, I think that game's got the potential to be up around like 240, 245, like some of these Nets-Kings games that I've been seeing.
Yeah, and Damian Lillard's coming off another 30-point game. I think that's at least his 6th of the season, if not more. And I won't be surprised if he does that tonight again, too.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He's always going to be unbelievable.
Yeah. So before I want to wrap up with some final summarizing thoughts before we end, but I wanted to talk to you about my take here that there's really only 5 teams that I think can win the NBA championship. I think it's the Lakers, of course, who I think are the clear favorites and who I expect to win. The Clippers definitely have a chance if they can give Kawhi enough help. The Brooklyn Nets, to me, have a chance. I have this theory, Phil, that like some of these teams that have really bad defenses just like don't really try on a consistent basis on defense in the regular season, and that's the Nets. But come playoff time, like they're going to actually be trying on defense, and I think they're going to still be fine on defense in the playoffs. They, to me, definitely have a chance. And then I think the Utah Jazz and the Milwaukee Bucks are kind of outside contenders, but I don't see any team outside of those 5 winning. Like, is there any team you think I missed?
No. Did you have the Lakers in there?
Yeah, Lakers number 1. I think the Lakers are going to win.
Yeah. I think the Sixers are definitely overhyped right now. I think they had a really strong start to the season, but they also didn't really play a lot of good teams to start out. But the Brooklyn Nets, like you said, their roles are defined now. It's like whoever, I think someone tweeted out the other day, like Kyrie Irving looked at James Harden and said, I'm the shooting guard, you're the point guard. So with those roles defined, they could make a move. And they've only been playing together for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it's been. So it's the more experience they get together, the more they're going to win and the more they're going to mesh. And commenting on that, the one ball argument the argument that there's only one ball, like not all of them can shoot it at the same time, one of the worst arguments in sports. I needed to get that off my chest. I think that makes me really mad to hear that, but I agree with that. The Bucks are definitely in there. The Jazz are definitely in there, and the Clippers are definitely in there. And I think one outside team, if you're going outside that 5, I don't think it's the Boston Celtics. I think it is the Phoenix Suns. And the Suns, I've been waiting to talk about them with you for a really long time because they are good. Like, almost great, but they are very good. So I think
Chris Paul's been getting better and better too. He was really good last night.
so good, so good. And Devin Booker, he keeps working his way into the conversation as one of the best players in the league. DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, I could go on.
Agreed. And back to really quick, back to the Nets. And one of the things we heard a ton when they first made that James Harden trade was that they were going to have absolutely no depth. And I feel like they've kind of they certainly have a shallow bench, but they still have some guys that are contributing. Joe Harris has been good, even though he dogged us on a player prop a couple nights ago. Jeff Green has been a pretty good role player for them, and DeAndre Jordan is playing his role well too. So I don't think that it's just those three guys: Kyrie, James Harden, and Durant.
No, if they all buy in, Sam, it's gonna be fun to watch. You know, I think DeAndre Jordan bought in. Joe Harris has been in. He's one of my favorite players in the league. And then they just need a couple more guys to step up and really define their roles on the bench. Like, they got TLC, Luau Cabarro. I think I pronounced that right. He's given them some good minutes. But they really need a couple other guys to step up. I know they're mixing – I think they've been injured too. But a couple of guys on the back end of their bench that got bumped up because of the big trade. They got to step up and make their names known. So hopefully that happens and the Nets do make a run, because it would be exciting to see them in the finals with the Lakers. I think that would be a fantastic series.
Yeah, I agree. And it pains me, Phil, that I don't think the Celtics really have a chance. I've really been saying this for like the past 3 to 4 years now. I feel like there's a lot of teams that are in this situation, but the Celtics really stick out to me that they're in purgatory. Like, they're just good enough that they're going to be competing in the East, but they aren't good enough that, to me, they're really competing for a championship. So, they're never going to get good draft picks, and they've really just struggled to find that final piece to really make them contenders. I do think they got one of the best young cores in the league, though. Like, their outlook is still bright for the Boston Celtics. I just don't see them being able to beat the Lakers or the Clippers or even the Bucks or the Nets.
Yeah, it's – you know what? I think purgatory is the best word to describe them right now, and – I think that's something that Danny Ainge is going to work really hard to get them out of. And I think in the next few weeks, you're going to see some moves on his part that kind of define the path of this team going down the line. Like, you know, they got Tatum and Brown for the long haul. But I wouldn't be shocked to see Ainge make a move if they keep kind of dragging their feet the way they've been dragging their feet. Like, Kemba Walker, his job is completely up in the air right now. I don't know who would take him. I don't know who would take his max contract, but he definitely is vulnerable. But if they can go out and get a guy like Vooch, that makes him an instant title contender. But again, we got to see what they do and how people kind of rebound from these past few weeks where the Celtics have been a little laggy. So
agreed. So let's summarize our general advice for the night, Phil, before we wrap up. We got like 6 to 10 minutes left on the stream before we got to go. So I want to just quickly go through my favorite plays of the night. If you're just joining or if you're just looking for a quick summary on DraftKings and Fanduel, here are my favorite plays. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, you can't have a lineup without at least one of those guys. If you're in a 50-50, honestly, I don't hate smashing both of them into your lineup. But my favorite value plays of the night, Danuel House is going to benefit a lot from the injuries. A lot of these slates are just figuring out who's going to benefit the most from all of the guys that aren't playing for the night. Danuel House is one of those guys. The other of those guys is Seth Curry, who's going to be extremely high owned, but for good reason. And I wouldn't have a lineup without him either. And last but not least, probably my favorite play of the night, kind of this mid-tier pricing that I love, is Lonzo Ball, who's been shooting the ball more and more, and he's been a great passer since he entered the league.
Yep. And then on my end, I'm tailing Sam 100%. Nikola Vucevic is one of my favorite plays of the night. Kawhi Leonard, if he's not out, is really another good stud play. Serge Ibaka is one of my undervalued plays. Seth Curry was in there. Derrick Rose was in there. But I think kind of stick to your guns. Stick to the guys that have made you a lot of money. I think Andrew Wiggins is another guy, another value guy. And then we talked about him. John Wall and Gary Trent are my other two favorite guards tonight.
I like it, yeah. And I do think, like, more so in the NBA than in the NFL, price matters even more, I think, in the NBA. And the reason is that in the NFL, in the NFL, one play could have like 80% of the fantasy points for a single player, right? Like Nick Chubb breaks an 80-yard touchdown run. That's going to be like 75% of his fantasy points. There's no plays like that in the NBA, and you can project usage much better because of that, which is why you're at a huge disadvantage if you're not using an optimizer like the one we have in the WalterPicks app. Like almost everyone you're going up against is using some type of optimizer like ours. So I definitely recommend trying it out. If you haven't tried it out yet, get a 3-day free trial too if you haven't subscribed in the app yet. And it's going to minimize also just the time you're spending making lineups too.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. It's saved me a ton of time, and it's a tool that I wish I had previously when I was losing money on DFS. But now with the WalterPicks app, I'm in the green.
That's what I love to hear. And yeah, this is really my first year pretty consistently playing NBA DFS. I got a positive ROI so far this season too, and the app has definitely helped me a lot too. Like when I'm building the app, I'm thinking about how can I build something that I can use personally and actually like make money using. And if that's the case for me, then hopefully all the subscribers are cashing in as well, which so far has been the case. Phil, we've gotten a ton of feedback from our premium subscribers. We got over 1,500 5-star reviews in the App Store. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of us incorporating, but we still haven't even been an app for an entire year yet. And we're definitely have been making people more money than the subscription cost, which is really the ultimate value sell for the app. Yeah,
no, I can't tell you how many times I've interacted with people on Twitter, and they're showing me their tickets and they're showing me their winnings from Walter. So it's been a really fun thing to see kind of grow. A lot more people are getting involved as we grow as an app and as a following. So definitely, if you're in the chat and you're not involved yet, get on and start making money.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the most exciting part of all of this for me, Phil, is this is really like truly only the beginning. And the people, like the fact that we've been able to get such a great following so early on is just super exciting to me, because I'm just excited to show them where the app is going. I've been waking up very early the past few weeks, just like designing, building kind of the future of the app. And I'm very excited to show it to everyone and, to give us even more of an edge heading into future seasons and future sports.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people that are going to be very happy with what you just said. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, great. And I also just locked in a couple bets on the Celtics and the Heat. So we're riding them as well tonight.
Yeah, I'm riding with you, man.
All right, Phil, and again, if you missed the introduction, Phil is the man behind the Twitter, the self-proclaimed king of Twitter. He's really helped us out in all facets of social media. He's the NBA expert on the team. There is not a game that Phil misses, so appreciate you coming on the live stream, Phil. And we're going to be trying to go live every single Wednesday from about 5 o'clock to 6:30, just like we did tonight.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. I'm glad we finally got to do this, and we curbed those technical difficulties, and I can't wait to see where this goes. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, this is just the beginning for the live stream too, Phil. So I'm excited too, man.
All right, Sam, take it easy, man. Let's go Heat. Let's go Celtics.
Have a good night, everyone.